Hey there, welcome to another edition of The Breakfast Club. It's August 28th on Sunday. I'm Kazoom, filling in for Peach. I think everyone who chimed in on this subject this week did a great job. Sister Danger's video, I think, was the most thorough out of them. And even though I really disagree with her viewpoint, I understand her viewpoint now. And I understand the viewpoint of many people who have said some of the things that she said. I never had it really explained that well. Now, again, I may not agree with her, but she was so thorough that I understand what she means. I mean, one doesn't have to agree with someone to understand what they mean, so. Nathan's video talked a lot about hypersensitivity, which I definitely think is an issue. Good video. Got That Funk's video was insightful in including talking about the perils of bullying, and he talked about freedom and a number of other things. Great video. Bionic Dance's video included talking about how so often when someone is the subject of a pwnage video, that it's not actually for the sake of the person being talked about, but for the sake of the audience. Some good points were made there. Wayne's video included talking about how you pretty much have to bully the people who are bullies in order to stop them from bullying. You've got to bully people into not being bullies. Josh's video is the one that I agreed with the most. He mentioned how so many people have left YouTube, people who made really good, insightful, thoughtful content, and that these people left because of some of the toxic elements of this platform, especially the bullying. It is my belief that extreme fortitude against insultive, abusive comments that have nothing to do with the subject being discussed should not be the number one skill or attribute to have in order to have reasonable discourse on YouTube and a number of other online platforms. The more walls we build around ourselves, particularly when they're walls we put up for useless things, like to defend against vapid insults that are only designed to inflame and hurt, the less likely we are to learn things about ourselves via things that people say to us. The less likely it will be that we accept constructive criticism, no matter how valid that criticism may be. Sure, we can use logic and reason to argue about subjects, but rarely will it sink in unless we're willing to be vulnerable. You can't really be very vulnerable on this platform because of how, on a managerial level, YouTube has been essentially neglected for the past 10 years. To me, Google has done a terrible job at running YouTube, with the exception of music videos and the purely entertainment videos. But for everything else, yeah, they've done a piss-poor job as far as I'm concerned. I truly wish Google never would have bought out YouTube. Though, YouTube might have went down had Google not have bought them out. But there's also a chance that they might have actually went for a different business model than what Google turned YouTube into. Under Google, people continually get flagged for bullshit reasons. For reasons that just don't make any sense. People get DMCA'd for tiny clips of someone else's content, even though it should be under fair use. And many things that are genuinely harmless on all levels, including emotional levels, get flagged. Google is great at the search industry. That's their strong point. That's what they excel in. But looking at the way they handle so many other things, it's like watching a deer in your headlights. YouTube has never really been handled in a way that's even remotely like how internet political discussion forums are handled, which are usually heavily moderated, either by the owners of the website or by volunteers. You can guarantee that if Google had set up a volunteer moderator program, that thousands, if not millions of people would have signed up for it. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed. But there's a good chance that it's actually too late for that type of thing to work now because of how toxic the platform has become. I mean, for this to change, something like the Great Purge might be required. To me, if people really want to get their anonymous bullying game on, there's toxic shitholes like 4chan for them to go to. YouTube was not originally designed to be like 4chan. But Google let all the really important things lapse that would give YouTube a strong future. And yet they made a huge priority out of things that don't really matter at all, except for their temporary, short-term bottom line. So the result is that YouTube has become a video sharing site equivalent of 4chan, but with random channel flaggings and channel terminations. It's sort of like the worst of internet worlds. One of the biggest problems on this platform is when people started to make YouTube videos purely based on the fact that they could monetize them. And this is a problem because mean-spiritedness is popular. It always has been. Being as mean, nasty, and insulting as possible is popular. It gets the most views. It's why people like Tom Leykis and Rush Limbaugh have been popular on the radio. Ignorance, stupidity, and a bully mentality are somehow seen by many segments of the public as a form of intelligence. It's like, oh, you were willing to throw away any sense of morality in order to make your point. You're so smart. What I find hilarious, actually, is when YouTubers who put out abusive content bitch and whine because their content is being demonetized. And they claim that their free speech is being violated because they can't get paid to put out abusive content. These people are idiots. They actually think that advertisers want their company's reputations put behind that kind of content? I want to know what these people are smoking so I can stay far away from it. And so now we have tons and tons of these ponage channels where they never really say anything about current events or current subjects on their own. They never talk about social issues on their own. They never really show what their own views are about subjects. They simply make fun of others for doing things that they're too chicken shit to discuss themselves, because they know they'd be pwned by some other ponage channel if they did. Now, sometimes they'll talk about subjects by demonizing an entire group, and then claim that they're being so helpful by demonizing that entire group. Muslims, women, black people, trans people, you know the story. Just demonize them and you're somehow contributing to the betterment of society. I mean, don't actually give any solutions or anything. The demonization itself is somehow enough for people to get the idea that you're making intelligent and thoughtful points. And you know what? In the past, I've unfortunately done this myself, and I'm certainly not proud of it. But this is where the problem lies. People who have a positive and hopeful view of the future, who have enough courage to discuss their views about a subject, are often eventually ran off YouTube because they're bombarded with swarms of people coming to their channel who are fans of the ponage channels to bombard them with insults that have nothing to do with the subjects being discussed. And yet these people who had the courage to discuss these things are often called pussies, or that they lack fortitude, or that they lack the courage to stick to their convictions, even though the things that they're fighting against in comments have nothing to do with the subjects being discussed, have nothing to do with their actual views. So it all has to do with people building tall enough of walls as to not let themselves get hurt by people with that 4chan mindset, or that elementary schoolyard bully kind of mindset. And we have the people who quite literally never chime in about anything except for insults, who start acting like Trigglypuff, where instead of saying, "Keep this hate speech off this campus, keep this hate speech off this campus," they're instead saying, "My freedom of speech, my freedom of speech, my freedom of speech, survival of the fittest, my freedom of speech." Right? All because people are daring to delete their vapid insults. These people don't care about any subjects at all, except whether they're free to insult people. The truth is, if people abuse a freedom, then that freedom will eventually be taken away. This is why I think this sort of thing is important to talk about, because I don't want to see those freedoms taken away via some sort of extreme measure. I don't want to see certain subjects no longer being able to be talked about. But unfortunately, I think that is going to happen. Those kind of measures are probably going to happen, because this platform has built up over the past 10 years into being a toxic shithole. It's like letting an infection go for so long that eventually a body part has to be completely removed. And now Google is planning on adding the ability to add text posts and image posts by the end of fall. Yeah, Google, don't fix what you already have. Let's just keep adding more things onto it so it looks like you're doing something productive. Just grasp at straws by feebly trying to copy other services so you can look like you're being innovative in the eyes of technology media. I don't see things going that well for YouTube in the upcoming year. I see Google dropping Google Red. I see a number of advertisers potentially pulling out because they don't want a bad reputation. I also see the potential of competing websites taking up the slack in the areas that YouTube lacks. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Anyway, thanks everyone for your great discussions and responses to this topic.